Welcome everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me. My name is Jochen Schell and I'm very happy to welcome you to this Build Your Future eLab number 3. We are very happy to have this webinar with you, and I see a lot of countries, people from different countries in Europe who have tuned in. As I said, my name is Jochen Schell. I'm hosting this webinar today, and I give you a little bit of introductional information in the beginning before we turn to our speaker, Tina, today. So I'm the director of YEP Europe. YEP Europe is basically at the center of the YEP community network. It's a network of communities and organizations in Europe working with the YEP approach and methodology of youth and community empowerment. And we have an outreach to 14 countries. There are about 100 or more than 100 communities and organizations in our network. And the Build Your Future webinar is basically an extension of the Build Your Future project, which ran from 2015 to 2017. And what we did in this project was an entrepreneurship, a social entrepreneurship course in 7 different countries. We designed this course specifically for young people, marginalized young people. And one very interesting and important aspect of this project was the entrepreneurship labs. And basically the entrepreneurship labs were meeting points, platforms of entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs coming together with young people. And they were very interesting sessions where young people got inspired. They learned from local entrepreneurs, and some of these entrepreneurs even became mentors. And in a way, this series of webinars is an extension of these entrepreneurship labs. Some technical information about the webinars. If you look at your screen, you have different options of raising your hands. You also can write in the chat, and we will ask you questions also in the during the webinar, where we would like to hear from you what you think about certain topics, and we will also run some polls, some short questionnaires during the webinar. And unfortunately, you cannot speak, or we cannot see you on the camera. This is the design of this program, the webinar, but you will see and hear me and Tina, our today's speaker. And I'm very happy to welcome her today. Her name is Tina Lee Odinsky-Zek. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Please correct me if I did, Tina. Tina is originally from the US and is based in Zagreb in Croatia now. She's the Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center at the Zagreb School of Economics and Management. Tina has a very long experience in the field of entrepreneurship learning. She has lectured, mentored hundreds of students. She has been leading tons of international projects, and one of her core courses in Zagreb at the university is entrepreneurship and applied creativity and innovation. And the list of her credentials is very long. So if I forgot something very important, Tina, please tell me. And this is it already from me. We will have a more or less 45 minutes session with Tina. It will be interactive. We will ask you questions, but also at the end, there will be a section where you can ask questions and give us your feedback. So I would like to turn to Tina now. Welcome, Tina, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Jochen. How's the sound? Okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, super. So you did a great job pronouncing my name. It's just the Croatian part is more like Zec than Zek, but Zek is the American way. No, everything's great. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. And I hope that we can connect a little bit of the dots. I'm a loyal fan of what YEP does, and I was lucky to be a part of the Build Your Future project. So I'm glad to continue on the relationship. So Jochen, should we share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So today's session is going to be focusing on ideas and opportunities. And sometimes people confuse what these two are. And so I really thought it would be important to kind of cover these two bases. So let's look at the overview of how we're going to split up our session today. So first of all, we're going to go over how ideas are different than opportunities. And then there's
Tina, we
Yep.
cannot see your PowerPoint. Can you try to share the PowerPoint again?
Okay, sure.
We see actually is the Zoom program.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So, okay,
Well,
here.
sometimes the program does stupid
No
things.
problem. Thanks for
Here we
doing
go.
that.
Now we are.
Now you see?
Yes, but only part of the
Yes.
presentation.
Okay, I'm gonna click. How's
Now
that?
it's perfect.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you for telling me. So here are the slides that I went over. So we're really on the beginning. Yeah, so ideas and opportunities that we're going to cover first, and then a little bit of a formula, not a mathematical formula, but nevertheless a way to break down how does an entrepreneur get an opportunity. And then we're going to review a little bit how you can generate ideas that are right for you versus how you identify ones that are right for the world. And in an ideal opportunity is when you can connect both of them. So we'll also show you some classic tools from the leading textbooks on entrepreneurship by Hisrich and Shepard, and give you a diagram on opportunity recognition, and then get real practical using an opportunity checklist. Then we'll wrap it up with how we're going to play hard and work hard for these to turn these ideas into opportunities. Okay, so we can get started. So first, let's compare them. And Johan, just jump in whenever you feel like it. I don't know about you, but this is usually like groundbreaking stuff when people can differentiate between ideas and opportunities in this particular way. Because every day you wake up and you have inputs and you have ideas about your day and ideas about what you've done yesterday versus what you're going to do tomorrow and all the different impulses you get throughout. So these are imagined, they're in your head, and they're cheap and free and they come very easy and they're abundant, but they're not always good. You don't want to follow every single idea. So the ideas just kind of lead you on a path. There's some kind of initial step. And then you have to choose or to ask yourself, are you motivated to continue what that next step is with that idea? If it's a bad idea, it flashes and it's gone. If it's a good idea, it may linger with you for a little while and motivate you towards some kind of action. But if it's a business idea, it may brew inside of you so that you share that idea with others and see how they feel about it as well. Now, when it comes to opportunities, these are not in your imagination anymore. You want to figure out how to turn this idea into something concrete or real. And in order to do that, it's going to be a little bit more time consuming. But what it should be is valued. It should be valued by you and it should be valued by others. And that's why, while ideas are abundant, opportunities are selective. You're kind of reducing down those ideas by different criteria. And one of them is that the market or the potential customer wants it. And then you'll also look at factors like what's currently taking place in that industry that deals with whatever product, service, or experience you want to create that you think is your opportunity. And then you ask yourself a simple question: are you connected to this, which will help you pursue it. So Johan, what do you think about that so far? Is everything clear to you? Do you have any questions?
Yes, it's very clear. Maybe you have an example.
Sure. If anybody who's watching wants to give us in a chat a question or tell us something that they were thinking of that they don't know if it's an idea or an opportunity at any time, just pop that in. But okay, let's think of, okay, this morning I was doing my nails and this nail polish was quite sticky. So I had an idea, oh, maybe they should come up with something that can tell you if the nail polish has expired. But that was just an idea. I'm not a manicurist. I don't do my nails that frequently. I'm, not a beauty blogger. So it's not my opportunity to pursue. So that idea is thrown away. I had an idea. It's somebody's opportunity, but it's not my opportunity. So you can see here that there's a couple filters already happening. Is my experience really connected to it? Is it something I want to become an expert in? Is it something I already have ties or connections to the industry or the customer base? Well, I'm a user of nail polish, but I wouldn't say I'm an addict. So I don't know if that's a clear one. That's probably not a good one for you and the other guys watching, but it's a prime example of a silly idea that pops in your head that isn't necessarily an opportunity for you.
Yeah, it's a great example. It makes the point.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Yes, definitely.
You're welcome. All right. So what's this formula that we might be able to use to see if we have an opportunity? Well, I think it's pretty simple, but let's see how you can really think about it for yourself. So you have to start with something that you love. So what are you passionate about? And what do you think is something that you're good at? So you take something that you're passionate about and something that you're good at. So let's say you have passions and talents, and these equal skills that you may be able to combine together. But what you have to also factor in, what are you determined? What are you going to make happen? What are you going to push so hard that you are going to be focused on it? And then who can you persuade or convince? Can you convince someone that it's something that they want or that they need or that they're going to demand with money? So you're creating something of value for someone else. Because it's great to have an idea in your mind, but if it's not going to go and deliver to somebody else, then it might not be an opportunity. And lastly, others have to recognize that this is something that you have to offer that's special and that you're the right person to offer it to them. So there has to be buy-in, and this could be customers, this could be investors, this could be employees. These are ways that you get other people to kind of follow your lead. So let's look at some of those things that can be inspiring you at any one time, things that you love. So this is just a jumble of what you can anticipate. Think about these words, and if you have a pen and paper handy, then you can just look at this list and see if there's anything or that could be added, or there's something. So start a little list for yourself on a piece of paper here and make a little list, things that I love and things that I'm good at, right? So I'm doing it alongside with you. So first thing is adventure, animals, friends, food, entertainment, freedom, family, God, country, team, books, music. So think about that all of these things that I just listed are people or are places or are things. So think about things that you love because your opportunities will lie in those areas. And then you can think about things that are more action-oriented. What are things that you are good at doing? And these are going to lead you into understanding the talents that you possess. So you're good at singing, maybe photography, learning, calculating, designing, laughing, finding, playing, maybe even rollerblading or something else odd and unusual, listening, gaming, studying. Spending, maybe you're a spender. Communicating, persuading, posing, saving, socializing, observing, shopping, searching, reading, hugging, blogging, presenting, styling, daydreaming, and blank. Because none of these lists are going to be complete for you. That's why we want to focus at the beginning of this is where is your mindset? What do you click onto? What do you think about? Because those are the ones that are going to be core to really building on what opportunities lie for you. So to recap, when you're trying to come up with ideas, try to start with ideas of what you love. And here's a couple further steps that may filter out, and you should try to take the time to reflect on them now. Maybe you want to solve a problem for yourself or a loved one. A lot of people come up with ideas that are inspired. I met a guy from Ideas from Europe, which was held in Estonia, and he was coming from Germany, and he came up with a wonderful invention, but the way he came up with it, he was motivated by the love of his grandmother. And his grandmother was kind of losing touch through dementia. And so what he did is he came up with a communication device which physically could get her more involved with other people, and that would maybe trigger some emotions in her. So you see an idea that was triggered by love. He coupled that with what he's good at, which is marketing and networking, and he gathered all the resources needed to make a prototype of his product and start talking to people about it. And then there was a guy in Ireland that I had met through Youth Bank Ireland, and he also was inspired by something happening with Alzheimer's and his grandmother. And so he wanted to try to trigger memories for her. So he started to create slide decks to show her things from her past that might trigger her memory. And so these are two things motivated by the love of a grandmother. But there's lots of a friend in need, your lifestyle, your habits, your diseases, some problem that you're having, some problem that your friends are having. Another one that you could do is you could be inspired by a passion you have, a lifelong goal or dream that you have. You might love something that nobody else loves. You love books and the feel of books, the smell of books, the experience of books, not reading books online, but old books. And so maybe you want to convince the world that we need books and we need live meetups for the books. So that's an idea, but how can you couple it to turn it into a business idea that we'll talk about later? And the goal is that if you have something that you love and you can help others discover what you love and why you love it, then you have a story to tell and you could be inspiring them and moving on to using the full self. You would maybe look on the other side of ideas of what you're good at. So how can you harness the power of your own talents? And you know, sometimes if you're in school, maybe you're hearing a lot of what you do wrong. And maybe what you need to do is sometimes step back and take a look at what you do right. And the talents that you have, are they fully being utilized in your work and play modes? If not, and you want to use them more, how can you? Who else is using these kind of talents in very new and novel applications? Maybe you can transform a hobby. Maybe you can take your skill and level it up. What can you do that's moving it from a recreational activity into something that could be more professional? So can you train others to do what comes natural to you? So these are all different ways to draw on ideas from what you love and ideas on what you're good at. So when you're thinking about these ideas and the ones that are coming to you, maybe you're jotting them down on a piece of paper now, You can look at it this way. We have two scenarios in front of us. You have one where you're facing a gigantic idea, some big idea that's bigger than yourself, and you want to walk right into kind of conquering. Maybe you're more interested in a smaller scale idea, something that you imagine and that you spend time thinking of, but you're not sure if other people in the world are focused on it. So you might want to go in and work on something like this. So let's imagine for a moment that you love baking and you're good at business. So where would we go from here? Let's play around a little bit. So I'm going to go to that particular slide. As you can see, it was not completely filled out. And we're going to try to fill it out together. So Jochen, are you with me?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. So, and if anybody else wants to chat along, let's start to fill this in. So the game here is very simple. You take the things that, maybe you have your own list. You can do it with 2 other words at home. So look at your list that says the things you love and the other list that says things that you're good at, and make a little T-chart here with one, what you love on the left side and what you're good at on the right side. And you just start with 2 words, one at each top of these lists. Jochen, are you with me?
Yes.
So then I need you, Jochen. You have to tell me some words that you associate with baking, and I'll type them in, and then I'll add some words too. So we'll play a little brainstorming game now. So what's the first word that comes to mind when I say baking?
Cakes.
Cakes. Okay. And baking, and I think gluten-free, because I can't eat just any cakes.
And I'm Belgian, so I say chocolate.
You say chocolate, and you just said Belgian, so I think waffles. Okay, what else?
Time consuming.
Oh, okay. Time, and then we'll put consuming, because we want one on each line, okay? Anything else? I think oven.
Good.
Okay. So,
Birthday. We have birthday here.
you have birthday. Okay, super. I know someone with a birthday today. I don't know why Smart Chart popped up. Birthday.
Tasty. From Italy
Tasty.
here.
You want it to be tasty. Okay. Well, I guess you spell it that way. All right, now let's move over to business. What are words that you associate with business?
Business regarding baking business?
Just business on its own.
Okay, money.
Money. Okay, and I'm gonna say making. Management.
Solution.
Oops. Solution. Oops. It looks like I have to plug myself in a minute. So Jochen, I'm going to ask you to think of 3 more words while I go get my battery charger, and you hold them in your thoughts or say them out loud and try to encourage some of the participants.
Sure, yes.
To send
The
you
participants, can you please use the chat and give us some words for the exercise? In the hope that she comes back, of course. So we have advertising here, profit.
Great, we're getting some interaction.
Sure.
Excellent. So advertising, profit, perfect.
What else do we have?
I'm going to put it down. Advertising, profit. Anybody else giving any? Everything.
Planning.
Planning. Okay. And how about store or retail? Okay, so we have a healthy list going. And now the trick here is you take from one side and the other, and then you try to think of what kind of business that could be. So if you do cake and advertising, for example, that's a very different kind of opportunity that you're trying to create than a waffles solution business, right? Or an oven planning business. And so each one of those can become another idea that you can say, okay, what opportunity does that combination create? So for example, if we take gluten-free and management, then that might be a completely different business. That would be a business to me that could consult restaurants of how they could modify their menus to be gluten-free friendly to their customers with those problems, because 1 in 4 women have a gluten-free allergy. I know that because I'm one of them. So anyway, let's look at another way you can do it. So I'll go back to the presentation. Thank you for all of your contributions. I really appreciate the people jumping in and helping out to make this list. So here we go. Say you're this woman, we'll call her Jenny, okay? Jenny here has an idea that she wants to start with her love of baking, and she wants to start a business. But instead of doing the exercise we just did, instead she starts to just use Google Images. It's one of my favorite things to do, because when you're trying to imagine your idea in your own head, it's really good to get references and clues. And I think this is why Pinterest is a big hit, because it allows people to kind of visualize what that opportunity might look like. How do we manifest it? Where do we begin? So if you look at just this slide, the first thing that could happen is you're overwhelmed, because that's what happens. You get one idea and another idea, and they all start piling up, and you have to figure out how to filter them, right? So what we're doing here is we could look at this train of thought. So the focus is on baking. It's at the top of the idea. It's in the center of the image. And then we probably think of, what could we bake? What do we need to bake, the baking tools? How do we start the baking? So this is why there's kitchen table business plan, cookie business plan, cupcake business plan, cake pop business plan, pie business plan, cake decorating business plan, and a retail shop that isn't baking, is just a candy shop. So what you're saying is you can chop up the idea and think about different ways to manifest opportunities. It's not just one way. Okay, so that was centered on you. Now we're going to, and that was just one example. Now we're going to refocus and try to figure out what are our opportunities that are right for the world. And believe it or not, we're going to connect the two examples in a minute. So one of my easiest tools for anybody who wants to start a business to do, and they're trying to be novel and innovative, is take whatever idea they have and try to combine that with something they deeply care about. And there's lots of issues to care about in the world. But if you care about all of them, you might get lost and not be able to do anything to help the world. And so you have to maybe take this little list that United Nations put together in 2015, the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and look at each one of them and see which, let's say, if you're listening, take three. Take three that you think you care about the most, and put that on your little notepad right now. So what breaks your heart? What makes you feel like you need to do something about it? Is it no poverty? When you see the big gap between the rich and poor, whether you're in either category, do you want to eradicate that? Do you want to help people with that problem? Is it hunger that you won't care about? And it doesn't have to happen in another country. Believe it or not, every country has a problem with hunger. It doesn't mean it could be very small, it could be very far from you, but even in Zagreb, we have people who are living down the street from a hotel. And very often people will wander in off of the street and try to get part of the free buffet in the lobby of the hotel because they're hungry. You know, people are all over in big cities trying to combat hunger. And we'll talk, maybe you know of some great examples of people trying to conquer the hunger issue. One that I know is dumpster diving. So people are trying to rescue food that is being just wasted and try to solve the hunger problem by getting people to be smarter about how they're using and consuming food, which is also tied to number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So the interesting thing about these UN Sustainable Development Goals is once you try to solve one of them, it's very, very often that some other issue will rise to the surface. So look at this extensive list and see how you might be able to connect to them personally, and then look at how we'll do it for our friend Jenny, who had the idea to combine baking and a business. So play this game along with us. What kind of business could you make if you had to have the challenge of adding baking and poverty to a business model? How about baking and hunger? And I'll give you a few examples in a minute, but I want you to see and share in the comments if you can, any business ideas you're getting when you have to combine these things, which kind of seem maybe strange, maybe odd, but that's where you might come up with a very novel idea that could be useful. So you have baking good health and well-being, baking and quality education, baking and affordable and clean energy, baking and decent work and economic growth, baking and responsible consumption and production. So let's start with the bottom up. So what would some idea be if you had to add baking and responsible consumption and production? It might be a baking enterprise that actually thinks about farm to table. So what they're doing is going to be using more locally sourced goods as ingredients or inputs into their baking. Maybe they're going to use the local apple orchards. Maybe they're going to use seasonal fruits in their desserts. Maybe they're going to try to source local grain products to use in their baking. So all of these are going to be new ways to look at something you love and something that you care about in the world. Does anybody have any ideas? From the participants, feel free to jump in with some of your ideas that may be coming to your mind. Baking and affordable and clean energy. I'm always fascinated with this great trend for alternative energies. And one of the things that I see and I question and I wonder about is, why can't we make some baking devices that you can use solar power for? Because they don't seem to take up a lot of energy. They have a very simple apparatus. Then I need an engineer who would help me, because I'm not an engineer. So I have the idea, but to make that a true opportunity, I would have to get somebody else who's an expert in that area. But if I care enough, if I'm determined enough, if I want to connect my network towards these goals, I absolutely can. So that's why it's great if you have experience or education in an area, but if you have networking skills, you can still be able to harness the power of that. Thank you very much, and we'll move on. Okay, so here is the model from Hisrich, Peters, and Shepard's book that's in its now 10th edition, but this comes from its 9th edition. It's a model of the opportunity recognition process. So let's just examine it. You have coming in your education, which informs how you see the world and customer problems. So for me, I try to introduce my students that I teach at college and anywhere I train into the sustainable development goals, so that penetrates their mind when they're thinking about opportunities and when they have to implement new ideas in a new company or in an existing company. And then you have your experience, your personal experiences and your work experiences, which shape that. Then your networks, where we come into how connected you are, and your entrepreneurial alertness. Kind of all three of these factors feed into the outcome of your successful recognition of an opportunity. So when you're trying to screen out the opportunity, you should think about these questions. So who else had this idea? The big problem I see is that many times people think that no one else in the world had this idea before, and no one else in the world is their competition. That is the number one mistake. You can underestimate that that idea in some variation exists somewhere in the world. However, if you're going to do the research towards that, don't kill yourself if you don't uncover everything, and don't defeat yourself because maybe there's variations within that idea that still have not been worked out. So if you do find that ideas are out there and working, then you have already proven that there's a need for it. And maybe you can figure out where it's working, but how to make it work better. So when is it most likely to be used? When you ask this question, you're looking like time of year, or time of day, or crisis situation. When can your idea be used? And how is it solving the problem? What is that problem? You'll have to define it. And which ways is it solving that problem? And then why is it better than any other alternatives that can be out there? So even if you say there's no competition, there's substitutes and there's alternatives. What are people now doing? Other actions, other products, other experiences to solve this problem that you're trying to address, and how could you probably do it better? And then what will it take to serve the first customer? Wow, that question I think is super important, because that screens out your idea. Do I have this idea? But if I have to fast forward to serve that first customer, many times people will come to me that I mentor and ask me, or tell me their idea, and they're pitching it and they're so enthusiastic and I'm really excited for them. And then maybe I'm a potential customer and I ask, how can I buy it? When will it be ready? And they look at me like, what? Huh? And they have not thought that through. If I'm ready, willing, and able to part with the, $100 or less to be their first customer, are they ready for me? If they're not, it's still an idea and not yet an opportunity. So I think that in the end, you have to play with your ideas. This means that ideas get played with and opportunities get worked on. You're going to find different ways and different perspectives on ideas versus opportunities wherever you look, but this is my personal take on it. So let your mind play a little bit with your ideas. Just sit with a blank page and doodle away, or sitting on a park bench, or wherever you get your most inspiration, and just allow yourself to daydream over your ideas. But then make sure that when you're playing with it in your mind or in a physical way by making a prototype or something, that you're coming up with different variations of that theme. So if we go back to baking, so you want to bake. You want to bake something that you like to bake. You want to bake something that someone else likes to bake. You want to mimic something that you've already had. You want to check out what bloggers are experimenting with, something like that. How about storytelling? If you have an idea, do you know how many times you're going to have to repeat that idea? Maybe thousands. You're going to have to tell the story of that idea to so many different audiences that you have to have that story and all its variations ready to go at any moment if you really want it to turn into an opportunity. So is your story ready for your mom and dad, your family? Is it ready for people who might be future customers? Is it ready for investors to hear about? So think of future employees. Now work towards your opportunities. You have to, if you really like this idea and it's sitting with you and nagging at you and tugging at your gut saying, do it, then you need to do everything you can to start to become an expert or hang around with people who are experts and embed yourself in their networks. And then look to people who you like the way they're thinking about problems, even if it's not directly associated to that. Get a mentor who can advise you, who could listen to you during your different journey steps and give you feedback, and learn from real and potential customers. So down below at the bottom of the slide, you'll see there's a link. It's called Make My Persona. It's an online tool, and you can then put the customer at the center of your idea and see what they think, what they do, what they feel, what they say. How is your ideal customer behaving? What is their lifestyle? What are their experiences in education? And what makes the way they say things, do things, think things, and feel things, giving you information about the kind of opportunity you need to create, that you're providing something for them. Then create models, even out of cardboard or plastic or things that you have around the house. Create a prototype of how could you make whatever your idea in 3D, so that you can use that as a show and tell prop, and it will give momentum to a minimal viable product that you might create. Then that allows you to get other people behind you like a team. And then you'll take all of these ideas that are tugging at you in which way you want to make a cupcake business, a cake business, a lollipop business, a home-based business, a storefront business, whatever it is, if we're going back to Jenny's example. And it lets you filter and focus. What do I love? What do I want to make? Where do I want to make it? And maybe you go, actually, it's not my opportunity. And that says move back, and maybe it's not the opportunity for you. Or maybe you get very convinced at this step after you filter and focus, and now you're ready to move ahead. So in a recap, ideas come very easily, but they can also disappear just as fast. Opportunities require there to be a customer willing to value what you want to offer. There are a lot of ways to play and experiment with your ideas towards creating an opportunity, but don't be afraid to move back or move ahead depending after you've done this opportunity recognition. And examine first your passions and talents and apply them to what the world needs that you are capable of providing. And maybe you will find your social entrepreneurship opportunity. So thanks. And I'm ready for any questions that you may have. If you've done your list as we've moved along, it'd be great to hear or see in the chat some of your inputs. And Jochen and I look forward to a few recap conversation now.
Thank you, Tina. So let's get some questions in the chat. And while we're waiting, I just wanted to say one thing I really liked about what you said, and we've seen this many times in our experience as well. It's sometimes very important to realize that maybe this is not my opportunity. Maybe this is the most valuable conclusion you can come to, is that actually you should not do it, you know, because the idea is not your opportunity. And I think very often people fall in love with the idea maybe too quickly. I mean, a lot of passion is also important, but at the same time, falling in love too fast into your idea sometimes makes you blind to things like the market not being ready for it, or people not really so passionate about it than you are. So I think this is an important point, and then to go back and maybe rethink the whole thing again. And that doesn't mean you have to give up your idea, but maybe you have to rethink it and remodule it.
That's right. That's why I think the word play is so important, because ideas should be fun, right? And if you get stuck on an idea, that is not fun. That is proving you're stubborn and you're not willing to be open and playful with it. So this is why I think play is a really important word, because if you start to take yourself and your idea too seriously at the beginning and you don't want to explore other pathways even before it's a clear opportunity, then that's already big trouble. That's big trouble, because many of the most successful entrepreneurs have to pivot. They have to change directions. They have to modify that idea. So if you're not willing to play even before you know that you have to work hard, then it's problematic. Here's a quick example if we haven't had any questions yet. My dad, he's very creative and he would always come up with tons of different ideas. And one time he came up with a brilliant idea. So he was selling in his pharmacy drinks, and he used to sell Coke and Pepsi and all the beverages, and they would be in cans. But the cans, because he transported them and got them delivered and had to prep them for sale, they'd always get dust and dirt on the top of the can, and people would just pop them open and drink them. So he thought, let's put a straw inside of the can, so when you open it, the straw pops up and it's more sanitary for you. But that was his idea. That wasn't really his opportunity. He sold them. He wasn't a beverage distributor. He wasn't a large or even a small drinking company, and he certainly didn't manufacture straws or do any bottling. So while it was a very good idea, it was not his opportunity. So there you have it. Lots of good ideas, people get them, but unless it's connected to the right person that's right for them and the right organization or network to make it happen, then it's just that. It's a nice playing of the mind on an idea, but it's not real. So anyway, do we have any questions yet?
Yes, do you see them in the chat or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
How do I do that? Maybe you could read it to me.
Yes, actually it's a question about the statement, or that what a lot of people say about opportunities, that it's only an opportunity when there's a lot of money to be made in it. So what do you think are the risks of this kind of maybe narrow view or approach?
Well, a lot of money is very relative. When you have none, $100 is a lot of money. And when you have a lot, maybe $1 million is not a lot of money. So to me, opportunities are very relative. Just like there was that image in the slide deck here of a person with a huge idea and a person with a small idea above their head. It's about scale. And everyone can say maybe they want to be the next Uber, they want to be a unicorn, but there's plenty of opportunity and room for not the overnight success. For the people who start small, slow, methodically, and grow that way. So to me, it's opportunity does not equate to big money, but that could be other people's philosophy. It's not mine. Because there's opportunities all the time. There's opportunities for NGOs. There's opportunities for business. There's plenty of opportunities for entrepreneurship, which is just creating new opportunities for new business within a company. And then there's ones for business. So I don't necessarily think it has to be tied to the money value.
I read you another question.
Great.
Do you know other tools similar to makemypersona.com that could be used in the process of transforming or developing an idea?
Well, I use a lot, but unfortunately, this is what happens. When people see that they get consumers to do free trials on these websites that they allow, and then they become popular, then they start doing charging for them. So I do know others like Mind Tools that allow you to play with your ideas a little bit more, and I can do research, and when we post this on the blog, I will add more free and fee-based resources that people can use. So I'm glad that they like that one, and I'm glad to provide others. So I'm writing myself a note to supplement. Okay, thank you.
Great. We can share it also with the video of this webinar when
Okay,
we
great.
post it. So I'm watching the chat. There's another question. It's from me again.
Okay.
While we're waiting for other questions, to the audience, please don't be shy. Go for it. You don't get a Tina every day to answer your questions. So my question here was about the how would I say, about measuring an opportunity and the role of market research. I mean, you mentioned don't kill yourself over too much market research, which I agree with, but at the same time, it is an interesting tool. It can help you to define an opportunity and also maybe to measure through market indicators how big this opportunity could be. So can you say something about this market research? And
Well, you know, I think the best market research you can do is create a minimal viable product and get people to taste it, test it, use it, consume it, and give you feedback. So before you get too deep into this idea, get feedback from the customer right away so that you know if you're going in the right direction.
mm-hmm.
So there's two kinds of market research. The market research that you do firsthand by talking directly or communicating directly with that customer. And then there's the one that you use to benchmark what other people are doing in the industry. And so, yeah, I do that all the time. I always want to figure out keywords. Use whatever industry you want to go into and use the word association. And look at the nonprofit organizations who are leading with the research and statistics on that. Another quick way to grab and go and find research really quick is infographics. So go to Google Images and put in whatever, since we've been using baking, put in baking business and infographics, right? And then change out the words cake eating statistics, you know, baking statistics, home baking statistics, and put it in with the word infographic, and you will start to see who are creating infographics to share statistics on this market and this industry. My students were doing it last semester in class, and it was the fastest way to come up with, I mean, one group was doing, trying to come up with a problem, to solve the problem of drunk driving. Mm-hmm. So you put in drunk driving infographic, and then they were getting a pre-sorted data and knowing exactly which organizations around the world were doing the research, and then they could follow backwards from the images to the text to find out those statistics. Also, your statistics bureaus in each country track all sorts of market research that you then can follow through on and then use. So there's tons of information out there available, but there's also a lot of market research that is going to be exactly what you need, exactly when you need it, but you're going to end up spending a lot of money on it. And for specific industries, like say robotics, you might need to go just right there to the source.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. I think that's very useful. We have a question here from Paola. I just read it to you. Would you know where young entrepreneurs can probably meet up to work on similar goals or on a similar goal?
Absolutely. I would go to the co-working spaces in your communities, because They are open, and many times they will have free events where you can gather and find other people. So just look, Impact Hub, for example, they have a location here in Zagreb. They're always having events, and if they're not having them or hosting them for young people, they know who are. Whether if you're a current student, maybe you can talk to a teacher to see if they can hold a special night that asks for people to come and just have a meetup and share ideas. Also, you can go onto Facebook and see any groups in your area that are having similar interests to you, and then try to connect with people. Start it with a small coffee conversation, invite people in and see who else they know, and then this has the snowball effect to bring people into your network. So I would look for competitions like hackathons to join, or free EU projects. I would definitely go to the YEP Europe Facebook page and their website, because then you'll see people who've already participated, that, let's say, alumni, and you can reach out to them and say, hey, how do I get this started in my area? So if you have that question, Paula, you will definitely find the answer. And you can write me, my email is on the page, and I'll try to find out if I have anybody through LinkedIn or Facebook that I can connect you with in your area. Glad to.
Great. Here's another one. How can I protect my idea while talking about it with others and or working on a prototype?
You can't. But the good news is, if you can't, it might not be your opportunity. It's really unfortunate. I can say that I used to feel the same way, that I don't want my ideas to be stolen. But if you are a person that generates ideas, you are a well of ideas, then you don't need to really worry about that, because what you need to worry about is continuing to play with your idea and work on your opportunity. Other people will have your idea, they could steal your idea, but they're not going to put the imprint on it and not be motivated as much as you. And if they are, maybe it's truly their opportunity. It's sad and unfortunate to say that, but it happens. The only thing I can say is, if you have an idea that is able to be patented, then you can maybe invest in getting a patent. And that is maybe something you researched really well, and you have proprietary rights over it. You can always ask whoever you talk to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And that's a simple letter saying that you met with them on this date, on this topic, and they won't do the idea in any variation without you. If you can get them to sign that, that would be terrific. But it doesn't mean they'll always honor it. So do what you can, but in the beginning, you have to kind of have trust, and you have to be learning your lessons. So if someone messes with you early on in the idea, hopefully you'll be able to smell out the next person who tries to do it to you. So don't be afraid to fail and stumble a little bit at that point of trust.
Great, thank you, Tina. One last question, maybe. Here is a question from Mirella. Is there a web service or a database that tracks failed business ideas?
There used to be a brand graveyard, but I'm not so sure, but I'm going to write that down again. So a database of, there absolutely is. I think it's in the Netherlands. There is a database of failures. I think it's called Brilliant Failures, but I will definitely get the exact link for you, and I will put it down, because I think we have to study failures. There is a series, and I don't like curse words, but there's a series of events that have been running in Zagreb and other places, and it's the F word, I won't say it, up nights. And then they have people who failed on their path to success talk about it. And so I think owning your failure is really important. And I won't go as far as celebrating failure as many people would like to. And also, if you go to Medium, Medium is a website, they have stories of both success and failures. But I will compile a list, and you'll be able to find it at the bottom of the video with links when this is posted. Thanks for that question.
Great, thank you, Tina. I think we have come to the end of the questions. There were no more questions in the chat, and we also have to come to the end of the hour, unfortunately. Thank you so much for doing this, Tina. It was very inspiring. We have all learned a lot. You could also see it in the polls. Oh, there's one more question. Maybe we can do that one. Is there any chance of you organizing some events in the future for meeting up and chatting with anyone interested? Example, people in this meeting, we all meet up some stage and probably talk and help each other with different things. Yes, I can answer to this. I mean, of course, we leave Tina's contacts, but we will run more webinars. In fact, every month there is a Build Your Future eLab, so we will continue this adventure. A lot of people are now regulars. Actually, I see it in the lists of participants. And so Paola was that. So Paola, you're very much invited to be with us next time again and bring along your friends. And you can also ask questions via email, and if you have further need for information, you can contact us or Tina directly. So and as I said, you can be there in February when we have our next webinar. So unfortunately I have to close this now. As I said, Tina, thank you so much. It was very inspiring as usual. And to all the people in the audience, thanks for tuning in and be with us for the next webinar in February. We will announce it again in Facebook, email, etc. And it will be probably with a very inspiring entrepreneur who will talk, who will tell her story of a small business. And I won't say more. It will be very inspiring, but it will be from someone really an entrepreneur who went to all the ups and downs of that adventure. So thank you very much again, and have a great day, Tina, and all to all the people in the audience. Yeah, catch you next time. Take care. Bye bye.